Hey, what's happening, guys? So today I decided to do a little tutorial on how I edit my photos. Got some questions on editing and composition and so on regarding my Machu Picchu photos. So I decided to kind of select a photo here and kind of walk you guys through my process. So I decided that this is a good photo uh, from the main side of Machu Picchu. It has it's not the perfect photo or anything, but it has some good qualities to it. We got some nice foreground here. We got the Machu Picchu complex right in the middle, and we got some nice blue skies. We were very fortunate that day when we visited early in the morning to get some pretty excellent weather. But yeah, going back to editing, I use mainly Adobe Camera Raw, and after I do the adjustments there, I export it to Adobe Photoshop, and I use an older version of Adobe. Adobe 6, I believe, is 2011 when I bought it. Yeah, it's been a while, so 7 years old software, but it still works perfectly for what I need. So yeah, let's head into the editing. And again, I shoot all my photos in RAW, never JPEG, only RAW. That way you can do a whole bunch of adjustments, corrections in Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom. Again, if you use Lightroom, it's gonna be pretty much 98% similar to Adobe Camera Raw. So newer versions have some other functionalities, but for what I'm using, everything should be good. So okay. So first things first, I kind of try to adjust, crop a little bit. I usually use the crop tool here on the top, or you can just tap on C. And I kind of want to do a little adjustment and reduce something like that. Kind of put the mountain in the middle, and maybe move it a little bit more to the left. Have some green here as well. Here's a little bit dark. So after I do the cropping of the photo, I usually go to the lens correction. And in the profile section, you got the enable lens profile correction. So this one kind of enables a little bit. You get some vignetting, you get some distortion, and this one kind of helps a little bit. So if you click on it, you can kind of see, you know, what it does, and it kind of brightens it up a little bit too, but it kind of expands it to a little bit as well. So it's pretty nice. So for there you go. In the manual, sometimes I do mess with this as well. If it's a little bit crooked, or like I can show you guys. I can rotate it left, right, but I think in this case it looks pretty good. Second step I do camera calibration, and I personally believe that camera calibration is the most powerful tool in Adobe Raw or Adobe Lightroom. So first thing, blue primary. Try to increase the saturation, sometimes all the way to the max, and you guys can see what this does. This is the tool, the function that I use 100% on all my photos. May not take it to 100%, but the good part about it, it does not distort the photo as much as you would do vibrance or saturation. So if you go deep, you can kind of see before and after. Everything kind of stays the way it is. So with that being done, I usually do the hues a little bit towards the blue, and then I increase the hues of the red at the primary, something like that. So we can do a before and after. You can kind of see the dramatic change here that we had in the camera calibration. And looking at it, this is pretty much, you don't need to do much. The main steps that I do, the main step that I follow is composition first, right? If you get a good composition, you get where the lighting is on your subject. It creates some type of emotion. You're pretty good to go. You don't need to do a whole bunch of editing. Editing helps, absolutely. It's going to be part of the process, but composition, getting an emotion, getting the light correct, That's pretty much the three main things that I focus on, and then post processing, it does help, no doubt. So, okay, going back to the basics, white balance, that's the main reason why you should shoot in raw, camera calibration and the white balance. You can increase the temperature, make it bluish. You can decrease it, make it a little more brighter, more sunny. So, but we had a little bit of sun, as you can see right here in the middle, on the Machu Picchu complex. So, but it was not super hot. It was not a powerful sun. So I'm trying to imitate that. So a little bit helps, and I'm gonna increase the tint towards the purples. That way, it gives back a little bit of that blue tint that we had as well. So, yeah, something like that before and after. Kind of see, yeah, probably a little bit too much sun. It was not that sunny that day, but there's definitely a little bit of sun. Okay, with that being done, I increase a little bit of the vibrance as well. It never hurts to do a little bit of the vibrance. Sometimes I do the recovery mainly on night or sunset photos or evening photos. This one might help sometimes, not sure. And you guys can see it kind of removes a little bit. It pulls back on the highlights, but maybe just a little bit that would do it. Everything else kind of looks the same. I kind of want to have this nice white cloud here. It looks like steam, right? So it looks pretty mirific. So okay, next one is the tone curve. I do more tone curve in Adobe Photoshop, but in this case, you see there's a little bit more darkness here. I kind of want to pull that one out. So a little bit more, and then the shadows as well. But I do like the contrasty look, so I'm gonna push back a little, pull in more blacks a little bit, so kind of compensates from the shadows and the darkness that I pull in the tone curve. So, and maybe increase a little bit the exposure, a little bit more. I should do it. Okay, so before and after, you guys can kind of see the difference. Okay, next is the detail. I'm gonna sharpen this just a little bit. Even though it's pretty sharp. So if you screw up the sharpness, in camera, there's a little bit of help that you can do in post process, but you want to get it straight sharp in the camera, right? So sharpening that I do here is I increase maybe 30, 40, something like that, and then using the Alt key and then the masking, I kind of reduce and something like that. I don't want where there's clouds, where there's sky. I don't want any grain there, right? So there's no point of having. So what the masking does is it masks certain parts, right, where there's less detail. There you go. So something like that. So I do want detail in the rocks. I don't want any grain in the sky and in the clouds. And sometimes the luminance helps if you do have too much and you pull, for example, if you pull too much of the shadows, if you pull too much of the darks, you might get a little bit of a grain in the photo. So with the luminance, you can kind of help fix that a little bit. I might do a future tutorial explaining more the noise reduction function. There's no need in this one. It's a super crisp. This was shot with my 17 to 40 at 19 millimeters, ISO 200, handheld. Probably could have used ISO 100, but I was moving from one place to another, moving from darker places like in the ruins, then outside again. So 200 kind of works okay. Next up, ASL and grayscale. Pretty much here is just a little bit of a saturation. So what I do here, in this one not as much, but in some of them I do use a little bit more extensive this function. But I will increase a little bit of the purples. I will increase a little bit of the yellows. Definitely the greens, we got some grass there. And then, the blues for the sky. There's no need for purples or magentas. And the luminance of the HSL, we're definitely going to increase it a little bit there. darks, increase the darks, increase the darks of the blues. So there you go, you can kind of see in the sky, brought back that blue. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? And maybe for the greens, I want to pull out a little bit, and for the yellows too. Yellow affects green quite a bit, so you'll see that more in Photoshop when I do the selective color function. Yeah, yellow affects quite a bit of the green, so you always want to play with that as well. Split toning, don't use it that much. Lens correction, we did that. And camera calibration, I think it's decent the way it is right now. So yeah, kind of review everything at the end and try to see if there's any other adjustments that I need to make. You know, maybe a little bit of the clarity, even though there was quite a bit. You know, it looks good, so you guys can kind of see. Let's do a full image setting. So this is how the camera, this is how the photo was originally, and this is what we apply. So, you know, quite a bit of a change. You know, it was a flat photo, and we made it quite pop. You know, you can see a dramatic change, but you know, again, I think it was a decent photo the way it was. You know, increasing a little bit the contrast, which you have to because most pictures are flat, and then adding a little bit of the color back. That kind of helps. Okay, so open image in Photoshop. Okay, so now in Photoshop, first things first, and you guys have to do this all the time in case you screw up. You got to do an adjustment layer. Control J. You're going to duplicate the first layer. That way, if you do any you know any brushes or anything like that, if you dodge and burn anything, you can delete the layer if you mess up really bad, and then you want to kind of start from the beginning. So layer always helps. Okay, so I mainly use only two functions here, and that is selective color and the curves. Sometimes I will use some other stuff, but mainly those are my basic functionalities in Photoshop. So let's start with the curves, and I'll probably do another video on how to use curves more extensively. But a general rule for using curves, you know, you want to get that S curve, increasing the highlights, decreasing the darks, you know, so you kind of show you something like that, maybe a little bit more, and then pulling on the darks. It creates just a nice contrasty look, maybe a little more. So before and after, you know, not a big change, but you kind of it pops up a little bit the clouds, you know, it kind of makes it kind of makes it look a little bit better, a little bit crispier, sharper, you know. And yeah, curves does help with the sharpness as well, right? And of course, like I said, I'll talk more about it, but there's definitely more functionalities here that you guys can use in order to get a better result if you need it. But in this case, I think this small little S curve is enough for the photo. Next is selective color. So pretty much here, just playing with the colors. You know, with the red, you're decreasing the cyans, you're increasing cyan, the blues. You know, cyan is blue. So you can kind of see a little bit if I dramatically go from one extreme to the other, what it does, you know. So I definitely, you know, don't want to do this reddish, you know, weirdish look. You know, I try to keep it as much as possible to its original state. So you know, maybe decrease just a little bit of the cyans, and you know, a little bit increase the yellows, since we did have that sun right here in the middle. The yellows, and yellow is always powerful. You know, it affects the greens and it affects the yellows as well. So let's play with that a little bit. You know, and again, you have green, but then you have the sunlight too a little bit, right? So it can affect both. So you know, something like this. You know, I probably for the full photo, I probably want to point out more towards the sun. So I'm gonna decrease the cyans and increase the yellows, which pretty much gives you that nice glowish golden hour look. And then on the green side, you know, increase the cyans and increase the yellows, right? So blue and yellow equals green. And then if you decrease the magentas, you'll get a more powerful green. For the blues, you know, maybe just darken it up a little bit. for both blues and cyan. And I think that should do it. Okay, now this is a little bit more green right here. It's actually it's more greenish than it actually looks, right? So one thing we can do is and then play with the curve function is click on the layer that you created to duplicate the first background, and then under the select function you go and do color range. So with the color range, you pretty much are selecting a color that you want to focus on. So I'm going to select this green right here. So in this box, it will kind of show you what you selected. So you can kind of click multiple times. There you go. So kind of have the flowers, the bushes, and a little bit of the green in the complex. And with this one, with this bar, you can kind of see how much of that color, right? So if you want to go from purely just the one that you clicked on, right, that's pretty much always going to show you. If you want to do a bigger range, kind of selecting a variety of that color, you can kind of increase it. So that should do it right there. So once you do OK, it's going to select it. You'll see these little ant lines here, and then you want to do curves again. So once you do curves, you get a new layer that is strictly emphasizing the green that we selected, right? You can kind of see here a little bit. That's all the adjustments going to be made on. So let's see. I want to make it a little more greenish as it was, right? So because there was not much sunlight hitting the greens here, the bushes, right? There was here some, but I want to focus on this. So with the red, see, you can kind of see what it does. You definitely don't want that, right? That's complete distortion right there. So we may not even want to do anything with the reds. Let's go with the green. See, that's the red. You do it up. It brings a little back of the green, right? So yeah, kind of how it was. And then maybe go at the blues as well and kind of see. Yeah, it doesn't affect it that much. So kind of leave it the way it was. So yeah, I think that's I'm satisfied. Again, we don't want to do dramatic changes or anything like that, but we do definitely want to, show it how we saw it, right? So after doing my main two, select the color and curves, I do some dodge and burning. So the functionality right here is called dodge and burn. So if you click on it, you select the dodge tool. What the dodge tool does is highlights things, right? It brightens things up. The burn one, pretty much it burns it, right? It makes it a little more darker. So I don't think we have that many burn stuff to do here, but definitely some dodging, right? So let's increase our brush, something like that. So I kind of want to brighten it up a little bit right here, right? When you get some vignetting, I kind of want to eliminate that. You got a little bit too much here, right? So definitely bring some of that back from the rock and the grass. Okay, so something like that. And then maybe from the complex a little bit right there, not too much. And then from this rock right here, and maybe a little bit here. Definitely want to have a nice foreground, but we don't want to take too much of the emphasis. The main emphasis is the side, of course, but this one just kind of builds a nice frame for it. So and you reduce the brush a little bit. Definitely could do more stuff here. Definitely could brighten this up. I prefer to do all my photos one photo. I don't like to do any composites, right? Where so you can take one exposure for the sky, one exposure for the complex, and one exposure for your foreground. You can do that. I just, not a big fan of sitting at a computer editing and doing all that stuff. So, for me, actually, this is way longer. Maybe 5 minutes max per photo. So, kind of don't want to, rather be in the field, rather be outside experiencing things, doing things, rather than being stuck at a computer and just editing. So I think that looks pretty decent. So before, after, you can kind of see, looks pretty good. And then maybe do some burning, just a little bit. It's too big of a brush. Maybe in the clouds, just a little bit right here. Kind of spotting it like that, nothing major, you know, just bringing back some of that detail. And I think that should do it right there. And then, of course, this picture's sharp enough. We don't have to do any sharpening, but uh, I'll kind of show you guys how to do some sharpening later on. But I'll do it here really fast. Okay, guys, so that was pretty much it. I know I went through the sharpening pretty fast, but again, I'll do another tutorial about how I sharpen my photos. There's a whole bunch of options, but I'll show you the one I've been using for, almost 8, 9 years now. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully, you guys learn a few things from this. If you have any questions, just shoot away. Ask me anything. I'll try to respond. Again, there are a million ways to edit, to change. But I like to keep my stuff as original as possible, straight into the camera. Get most of the stuff in the field, and then do a little bit of a post, and actually take as many shots and have as many compositions. For me, quantity is a quality itself. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.